It's time for Who Watch, Time and Relative Blackness in Space.
Hi everyone, it's Connie and Delia coming to you live from the Time Vortex. Today we're discussing episode 7 of Doctor Who season 12, Can You Hear Me? In this episode, the fam gets characterization again, we meet 2 vengeful gods, and the TARDIS is sentient again. So hi everybody, again, it's me, Delia, who said
Hi,
she wasn't
Delia.
coming back, but I'm here.
But, you know, Robin's looking for the Master again. We just felt like, you know, there was a little voice in this episode, so she just had to go. She had to go.
I mean,
and I don't blame her.
because
She got to bring him back for all of us.
I've
2
been
episodes
busy
till the finale, you know?
on this Zutara kick, and Connie's been busy.
Being broken.
She's got a whole lot going on in her life, so
Broken.
it had to be Robin.
Quite literally broken. So, yeah.
So here we are.
Here we are to talk about Can You Hear Me?
I'm actually excited to talk about it because Connie and I actually have not talked about it at all. So this will be real, live, doing it live.
Doing it live. This episode was co-written by Charlene James and Chris Chibnall. Charlene James is a black, I want to say she's a playwright, but she might write other things. Probably writes other things. But
she got the job somehow.
Yeah, she's out here, and I appreciate it because she wrote some good stuff. Although it's just real interesting once again that Chris Chibnall's name is and, which I'm just so mighty curious about. Just because, I mean, I know television works differently in the UK. But, like, when you're the showrunner, you have a say in all the decisions and all of the backstory and plot stuff anyway. So I don't know what it is. Like, it's a producer thing, like a payment thing. I'm just really fascinated by the idea that he's
That's true. That's interesting that you bring up a payment thing, because it's kind of like the music industry here. Like, sometimes the music credits, like songwriting credits, they're not that involved. It's more about, like, paying people their dues for helping out in whatever way that they do. Right,
like an original draft was written by so-and-so, or like this person wrote this section, this person wrote the hook, or whatever. And so they get a credit for that if people are playing fairly, which we know is not always the case. But But
also, just, my thing is I wouldn't begrudge it, like, the first season, like, he's a showrunner trying to really, like, make his mark on the series and, like, set the tone. But at this point, we're, like, well into season 2. And I know there's, like, talk about did they know the order of the episodes when they were filmed it and all that. But still, the fact that he's got to be credited on every single...
It's been, and it hasn't been every single one, and it's just more glaring because it's been mostly the writers of color. I'm just saying it plain. He has co-written with white writers, but I feel like every time, it might be, I think maybe there's one, but I can't remember off top right now. But most
I really
of the
don't be
writers
paying
of
attention
color,
to the credits much, because sometimes the way I watch, there is no credits in it. You know? So, like, I don't find out till afterwards. I'm like, oh, well.
Yeah, I think it's something that I've been trying to track because it's always been a writer of color and Chris Chibnall. And, you know, people have been pointing out the new writers of color that have been coming on for the season and stuff. So, you know, I sort of pay attention to it. So I've been sort of tracking, not very well, but, you know, people have been talking about the writers of color, and so it's just been super obvious and glaring. But props to Charlene James, because characterization is back.
These characters have, like, personality.
Can you believe? personalities and personal lives.
Did you guys even remember Yaz had a sister?
Can't
Bet
believe.
not.
Not since Ryan was like, I want to date her, and then they never brought her up again. So
I was thinking like, man, that would have also been a good story if like, because I don't like the story with his friend was good, but also if he just would have chilled with like Yaz and him, I would have been fine.
Right, because it's just like, again, there's so many characters this episode. And it was better because our like, this is what they could have been doing all along, is like have all these characters, but also give our characters personalities and development and like secrets and stuff. But this is what they could have been doing this whole time with like balancing our team and like a lot of new characters. But once again,
literally like, one of my first notes for this episode was, of course we're bringing a fifth person along and bringing them on the TARDIS. Why not?
Someone's gotten on the TARDIS every single episode, and I don't think that used to happen. I think they used to get off and then go adventure, and then like, they'd get back on. It would be
like they kind of like let them see the TARDIS for the ooh, it's bigger on the inside moment, but then they leave, right? And that'd be it.
Right, they had to go grab something, or like the TARDIS had to do some math or whatever.
So overall, how did you like this episode? Did you like it? Not like it?
I think I did like it, especially because characterization, man, and like the overall like mental health themes were nice. I was sort of, I don't know if you can be spoiled on that, but like I saw someone tweet about it, and I was just like, oh, okay, so I knew going in that would be the sort of theme of the episode. I feel like there was just a lot going on, like the mental health stuff, and then the vengeful gods came out, and then I don't know, there was a lot going on. So but I do enjoy it. I did enjoy it, and it'll be something
I think I'll definitely rewatch. Well, I don't know, the fingers.
Those were not good. Those were very unpleasant. Those were
super gross.
Gross.
I think I enjoyed it. So what I'm realizing is like, or what I'm trying to grapple with, I guess, is was the episode good and I enjoyed it, or has the bar been set really low and I'm just happy with what I got? Ooh. I'm not sure.
Oh, See, Delia coming on TARDIS and always getting real spicy real quick.
Away this whole season.
No, it's fine. It's fine. No, it's fine. It's great conversations we're having. That's a great point. Because that's where I feel like my like hesitation came in, where it's like I enjoyed the characterization we got, and like Ryan and Yas had that moment near the end, and we just learned so much about them, but it was so much going on that like I still every week I feel like I get a little lost by some part of each episode. And this one I'm just like, so the gods are gonna do what, and then they get trapped how? Like some of how we get from point B to point C near the end of the episode kind of went really fast, and I was just like, sure. And I do that a lot with Doctor Who, but it felt really like okay, I
definitely felt that.
We're doing that.
Like, we'll get into it in a bit, but like I was like, wait, the story itself, not like what? It was like whiplash. But
yeah. Like
I feel like that's and like it's getting boring to talk about. Not even just like for TARDIS listeners, like across the fandom, this conversation's been happening now for 2 seasons, where it's just like they're doing too much. Like there's a lot of good pieces here, but they're doing so much. It's hard to give any one of them their shine. And I definitely felt that this episode. Like I loved Ryan's friend, whose name, do we know his name? Tebow. His dealing with his mental health. I even wrote at the very beginning, I was like, are we going to be talking about mental health in the Black community? And I was like, oh, Doctor Who doesn't have the range. But then they did, and so that was a pleasant surprise. I also, obviously, we'll talk about it, but I loved Yaz's storyline. And I just wished in both of those, like, I could have had more. I'm super fascinated about these gods. I want to know more. But, like, there's just so much crammed into an episode. Even when it's good, it's hard to, like, appreciate any of it. I feel like I'm just sampling a lot.
Yeah, those two factors should have been 2 separate episodes. Because the god stuff, I think the problem with the god stuff is, like, we literally learn too much about them. which, like, again,
They
we just
went
keep learning all
they
these
went
things about all these
full
guest
Tale of Three
characters,
Brothers on
and it just crowds in. Right, like, I was just like, is this the beginning of Black Panther? Like, what is happening? There's that scene in the beginning of Black Panther where Sterling K. Brown's like, in the beginning, our people did this, and there's, like, little figures, and they're running around, and I was just like, that's what this is. But it's just, like, we learned so much about the gods and their story. They're not even from, they don't even go here. They're not from this dimension. And yet, we're still, like, learning so much about them, and yet we could have spent more time with Yaz and with Ryan and, like, seeing them get to interact more with regard to, like, the things that they were both dealing with, and, like, the moment that they have at the end could have been more laced throughout the episode. Like, I feel like they could have had time together to deal with this and then be like, we should call the doctor or whatever. Like, there were ways to give them stronger interpersonal interactions. And
I guess Graham too. I mean, whatever. He's here. Might as well give him a little bit of something. I did think it was ironic that we finally get an episode where we have characterization for our squad, and it's the first episode they're not on Earth.
And, like, are they not on Earth? I really wasn't 100%
they were like, or it was stationary but orbiting. Yes. Okay, science folk, don't come for me. That's not what you come to TARDIS for. Kishana, I know she's listening, but don't come for me. Point is, they're like orbiting or like in geostationary something or other, watching these two planets.
I definitely don't think that's
they're watching these two planets collide, and like,
yes,
I know they weren't on Earth because the whole time I'm like, Satan pit, Satan pit, Satan pit, because TARDIS listeners won't know, but like, the Impossible Planet / the Satan Pit is one of my favorite Who stories, which TARDIS is haters. It's a good story. I love it. I'm here for it. And this had a lot of that
when the sun energy. And the devil are involved, I'm just like,
I love it. Give it to me. I love underworld nonsense. Tell me about the Satan. Give me stories. Make him less scary. Knock on some wood. I'm nervous. Anyways.
So those are Delia's nightmares that the gods will be feasting on tonight.
Yikes. No, my nightmares are usually like me marching, but I don't know the drill. I was a marching band nerd. Anyway, so that's what they would have pulled from me. Anywho.
Yikes.
So
Aleppo, Syria, 1380.
My only note for this was literally like Aleppo straight up looks like Disney World.
Well, Disney has that makes sense though, because there's a level of Aleppo's definitely like clearly a set, and Disney has that they tried to like spice up a little bit, and then Disney Land, like World and Land, definitely commit to making their sets feel like real places. So it definitely
had a big Epcot feel. And like, I know it's a cheap shot. I usually don't like to comment on like BBC's sets, except for when like the broader narrative, like, oh, they put all this money into Skyfall, but this was just so glaring. I was like, yikes, are we in a little?
They're like, we can show you these two stone archways, and that's about it.
So whatever. We go to Aleppo, we meet, I think her name's Tahira. I really don't remember. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not even in my notes.
Yeah, it was Tahira, because they kind of pronounce it like Tyra, but then the doctor says Tahira.
Wow.
I was like, well,
yeah, that's
accents,
what we'll say it is,
I guess.
So they go, I'm still not really sure why, like, I know in the story why we were there, but I don't know as a writing choice why. Why did we have to go there? Why did we even need her?
It's like, one of the things with this too many things in the episode, too many people, because Yaz could have fulfilled this role, Ryan's friend could have fulfilled this role, Graham could have filled this role.
Going through depression or something. They don't really name it, but like he's going through some mental health issues. He could have easily like manifested this.
Like either of them could have had either of them could have had this like creepy nightmare, and we really didn't need to be
yay diversity,
like,
but
at all.
diversity
Like,
just for diversity's sake.
Homegirl showed up. Right, like, Homegirl showed up in the TARDIS and then was there at the end, but she didn't need to be there in the middle. They could have just went back and been like, oh, snap,
she got them hounds.
creating those monsters. Those ugly monsters. Oh,
only a beast
goodness.
only Hagrid could love, truly.
Oh my gosh. But they get everybody except for her, and then it's just like, oh snap, we back in the present. The doctor's like dropping everybody off. Yaz is very clear, like, this was her like idea to go home on this day and this minute, and she's 77 minutes late. So everyone goes home. Yaz goes to visit her sister. Graham is playing poker with some friends. I was like, oh snap, look at him having a black friend.
That's not his black friend. That was Grace's friend, and they still keep in touch.
You never know. That was also a thought. And Ryan visits his friend Thibaut. And like, Graham starts having weird visions. Yaz is kind of having creepy dreams, and Ryan's friend has been having weird dreams. But also, well, we'll talk about Ryan's friend and stuff later. But like, they all are like, "Yikes, something's going on." But they all call. So they all call,
which I thought was kind of funny. I liked that.
And no, I liked it too. It was just like, hold on, it's call waiting. I gotta merge this call. It was adorable, and so especially because the Doctor is in 1380 with Tiara, and it's just like, this is from the future. Don't worry about it. And then we get the bit that I really, so we keep joking on Tarbis and like in the BGC Slack that they're like, that we know intellectually that they wrote these episodes like mad months ago, and they filmed them mad months ago, but they keep finally addressing things we've been complaining about, like right after we really complain about them, and I'm just like, well, I feel like it's still a problem. Like, the characterization bit, we've been talking about that for
honestly, we've been talking about that for multiple seasons now, but
no. Right. But then the thing that I mentioned last week was that I missed the TARDIS being sentient and like talking to the Doctor, and then it happened this week. The Doctor was like, stop arguing with me, and new homegirl was like, who's she talking to? She's like, I'm talking to the TARDIS. She not listening. I said it's right here, and you're not listening. So I really enjoyed that, like,
the beep boop. That was nice. Boop. There were a lot of cute moments like that in this episode, which, you know, I'm sorry, is it a case of like, if you throw a bunch of stuff at the wall, some of it's going to stick? Is that what this is? Is that what they're doing?
Maybe.
Because there were a lot of cute moments, but there were also just a lot of moments.
There were so many moments. So, you know, this dude is bald, the creepy guy, and like sending creepy fingers into people's ears? Why? Like, that's the ultimate wet willy.
Why did you have to say wet willy?
That's what it was.
It was wet.
Of course it was wet.
Ooh, the visceral cringing. I hated it. Like, I tried to stay strong for myself because it wasn't as bad as last episode where they, had the scale. So I tried to stay strong for this episode, but, you know, Chibnall's kind of gross. I don't know what's up with him, but he needs help. Gross.
His villains are like disgusting. And like, that's after we started episode 2 or 3. Like, episode 3 had farting blob aliens, like, of New Who. And yet,
this is worse.
There's no limit.
But we should have known. Chibnall opened on a creature covered in teeth.
Yeah, in teeth.
Which I had made excuses for. I was like, I think it's kind of cool. He looks super creepy. But look at me now. I take it back. So fingers detaching from an old man's hand. He grows them back like a lizard. You never seen a lizard grow its tail back? He does that. What?
No, I've not decided.
You know, you never played with that. Okay, anyways, must be a southern thing. I don't know. Playing with lizards and then their tail pops off and then they have to grow it back. No? Okay. Not like
immediately
no,
grow
not like
back?
Homeboy, but like I don't know how long it takes, but she's so stunned. These New
I
Yorkers.
am a city girl. I am a city
Oh no,
girl.
lizards.
If you told me the rat tails grew back, I would move.
Lizards were like itty bitty. We're not talking about rats, and we're not talking about a grown man with his fingers growing back. It's different in that case. So yeah, he grows his fingers back a little bit.
So Tebow gets got. Yeah, Tebow gets got by the gross finger. But then they all they don't get got because like Graham's been having this vision.
Graham's been having, honestly, like first of all, when the vision comes to him and is like, Graham, I need your help. I'm like, Graham. First of all. Second of all, homegirl's like, okay, Storm, all right.
Listen, no, but like I first saw her and I was just like, is that homegirl from Atlantis: The Lost Empire? I was like, it's Kita. Strong Storm / Kita
definitely.
vibes.
I was living for it. I was like, all right, we gotta go save homegirl. Like, I don't even care what she's about.
We gotta save her. Where's she at?
She called Graham and not Ryan, but let's go.
I mean, you know, she's an angry vengeful guy. She didn't.
Yeah. I mean, now that we know, it makes sense.
Right. Like, okay, she was just like, it's like he's the weakest link. That's it. Because he was just like, I've been seeing weird visions, and like the reveal is that like they've been planning all this stuff.
Yeah.
But still, it was just like he's the one who's gonna be like, we have to save this girl. Also, I mean, he has a thing for black girls, so I couldn't help but notice. That she, you know,
okay, well,
she's not fit, like she's not ancestrally black because she's not even from this dimension.
She's his type. That's it.
You know, maybe there was a reason why she chose that form or something. Just making observations.
I hate it, but
okay?
I also like am now into this idea of this vengeful goddess, like just like alluring men in like a siren. Like I'm into it. That's not what this story was about. This story, they land on the base in the middle of space. Base in the middle of space. Love it. Love the rhyme. Love the bars. Watching two planets collide, and then this is where I put my first note, and I'm like, Satan Pit!
No!
Because she's like, the engineering to be able to do this. I'm like, are we doing it? Can we do it? Can we also have an almost confession of love from a 13 to yes? I was all the way on 10. I was gone. Like, I knew, but I also was like, let me have this. I'm just going to go with it.
Just in case.
Like, my notes at that point were caps. I'm like, because I wanted it so badly. Because I literally was talking about manifesting in the BGC Slack last week. Or maybe it was the week before. I was like, can you imagine a Satan Pit moment where 13 is like about to go down and she's like, tell Yaz. Oh, she already knows. And
then you collapse into your fainting lounge.
Hand over forehead, like just. That's not what happens.
Not at all.
But two planets are colliding, and like it's an engineering feat. And 13 was so cute when she was just geeking out about the engineering that it took to make this happen. Like she was so geeked out. Nerd. Graham's like, we could probably, I don't know, keep zooming, and she's like, what? Oh, yeah, okay, sure.
Oh, right, yeah. We're looking at something. You're right. They zoom in and see that there's a orb preventing the two planets from collapsing, and Graham's like, so that looks familiar. I think that's what we need to go save. So they do that, like,
well, 13 figures out it's a prison, so two things happen in my head at this point. First of all, again, right, I'm like, Satan Pit! Secondly, I'm like, no! I did have the thought, I'm like, if it's a prison, why are we just breaking out
Prison.
whatever's
Yeah.
in the prison?
Yeah.
Why?
What is this? Part of this story reminded me of a storyline from Angel, which I will talk about. But there's also some other. I feel like there's some other thing that it's like inkling at my memory of a story where it's just like it was imprisoned and then we like got tricked into letting it out, which might still just be the storyline that I'm thinking of. But I feel like there's something else. Like it's been twice that I've like seen this story in fiction. But yeah, like don't save if something's in a prison.
Yeah, maybe
Why
ask
are
a few
you
more
letting it
questions.
out?
Don't just be like, well, there's visions.
Just a couple. We need
Even
to
bad
save
people
it.
when they're in prison are like, oh,
guys.
please save me, I'm innocent. Like, what else are they gonna say?
Right. Like, y'all. What else they gonna
But
say?
anyways, I'm still riding the wave of It Might Be Satan's Pit Part 2. So move past that. They start.
Listen, well, I'll get into my theory, my other theory later. It was debunked immediately, but still. But according to Creepy Pants, whose name is Zelen, inside he gets the whole fam and they friends
partly
and
because
wet willies them.
What's her
into
face?
Their worst memories.
Ran off for some reason.
Girl. Ugh. She's new here, but like this is why you can't just be picking up strays in the TARDIS.
Every time they get in trouble, I'm like, what are we doing?
You can't just take them everywhere. Like they can't just be going everywhere. But yes, she goes off and finds her friends. She's just like, ah! And then Creepy McCreepy is like, hey, thanks for coming. So he gets her, he gets Ryan, he gets Graham, he gets Yaz, and then he's just like, they're all having their little visions, which we can talk about. But then he gets the doctor, and it's just like, yeah, this was all a trap. Inside the planet is an angry goddess who's been trapped there because she and him used to torture planets. Just for funsies, because they're immortal.
You get bored when you're immortal. What else are you going to do? Be nice to people? Ugh.
That would be great. Or just forget, like, never mind.
Oh my gosh, please do not spoil it. I need to get on it, but I'm busy.
I won't, but, you know.
Oh my gosh, wait, you're stressing me out.
We'll know. It's fine. No, it's fine. It's a beautiful finale. You'll love it. Anyway, so the story that this reminded me of is the show Angel. In the last season, you know, friendly character Fred gets like taken over by an immortal goddess, and it was sort of like, you know, one of those like all of these events were converging in order to make this happen, but like someone she worked with served this immortal god and was just like, she would make Fred is her name, would make the perfect host. And so he like, you know, tricked all these characters into shipping the sarcophagus through customs, like into their office or whatever. It was just like all these like shenanigans to like get the box into their lab where they were working, and then she like presses buttons and is like too curious, and it opens it and it takes her over, and she's like this angry goddess the rest of the season. And it really reminded me of that, just like the idea of being tricked into releasing this like immortal creature who wants to destroy everything. Eventually Illyria gets better, but homegirl, who
she's
is
not
never named
in the episode. I had to look it up. It's like, and I've forgotten it now, but it's
you had to look it up and I forgot it immediately. Just like the show. Just like the show.
Like,
yeah,
just
like the show.
I cannot. I mean, and again, she's a very cool character. And again, like I was saying at the beginning of the episode, I would love for these two like stories to be split, like the mental health story and the character's backstory, and then the story about like the gods, essentially. Because I'm super interested, like, why are they trapped? How did they trap them? They kind of tell you in brief, but I want to see it.
They literally don't tell you how the planets communicated with each other and then decided to collide themselves. Like, how do you even decide to, like, first of all, how do you decide to do that? Like, that's a traumatic thing for two entire planets to decide. Like, I'm sure people were like,
look, we can't even get a vote on, like, basic human rights here on Earth. How did they vote to collide their planet?
Right, and it's just like, I'm sure there are people at the top who are just like, we're making this decision, screw everybody else. But still, like, that's an interesting story to tell from the ground. And they could have told that story and then this goddess story. And then that could have been a
I
separate
think there's a
episode.
reason why often like these types of stories in New Who past usually it happens like they stumble into an existing space station ship, something where like there's the people to tell them rather than just like observing because it's
Right.
more impactful.
Especially from the point of view of the
Right.
villain. Like, we're hearing this happen. This is the perspective of the bad guys who got by the mortals on the planet. So it's just like, well, why
Mm-hmm.
do I believe your story? But also, two separate things relating to the planets. One, so we just gonna leave these planets to be colliding with each other?
Yeah,
Are there no people left? Like, did we confirm that there are no people left on this planet? Because they haven't actually collided yet. And, like, I'm sure there's, like, sciencey, wyancy stuff of, like, well, by the time they reach that point, all humanity on the planets will be gone or whatever. But, like, I feel like someone could have been like, maybe we should save the people
And
on
I also
this
just
planet.
kind of feel like when they first showed up and like Graham's like, that's from my vision. I'm like, Graham, those are stars. And I totally thought they were gonna be like 13 was gonna look at him and be like, oh, that's cute. Those are stars, not planets. And then that's what I thought was gonna happen because they don't look like there could be life on them. Like they're like lava balls.
Right, no. Yeah, for sure. And so I'm sure that that's part of the thing. It's just like by the time they get to this point, humanity or mortality or whatever lived on that planet has been wiped out. But like nobody was just like, so they felt so desperate and they just destroyed themselves for these two people. And this is before we find out that it's a
Right.
bad guy.
Like just which honestly, like that should have told the doctor something. Like that's a bold move. And she didn't question it at all.
Yeah. No. My second thought was because every episode so far has taken place on Earth, or that like 5 seconds on Gallifrey. I was like, is that Earth and Gallifrey in the future?
Yeah, Connie was in the
like,
chat and told and like DM'd me. It was like, and I couldn't say anything, so I was just like, oh, well, that would have been cool.
Right. You never know. They might come back again. It might be one of those things where you watch the season and you're just like, oh snap. I doubt it.
It would have been really cool. Like I actually would have liked that better than like they gave a story. They do this whole Tale of Three Brothers
like
thing where like
planets.
they explain in pictures, and I was like, oh, it's cute. Which speaking of, little aside, they do this Tale of Three Brothers thing, but right before that, or maybe it was right after that, like homeboy, was it the guy or the goddess? One of them says, after all this time, and I was like, always, just say it, and they did it. I was like, it was right there. You're doing the Tale of Three Brothers. It's Doctor Who's cheesy. Lean in, lean in.
And that would have been a big fire that it's the bad guy. This is like, always, no.
But no, it just after all this time, I don't even know if she says anything in response. I'm like, you got what? I was so. I just, even though I don't like that saying in the context of Harry Potter, it still is ingrained in my head that if you say after all this time,
yeah,
it's the conclusion. It would be like doing a scale, but instead of hitting the octave at the top, you're just like, I'm just gonna skip a few notes. It's so dissatisfying.
The marching band major has spoken. But I think it would have been so cool if it was Earth and Gallifrey. And I think part of the story was just like, and then they like, I guess the gods tricked the planets into like warring with each other, which was part of like my being like, oh, I guess not, because Earth and Gallifrey haven't warred against each other, but there's also the idea that they haven't yet. So I was just like, maybe it could still be. But they literally name neither planet, and the people on Earth, like, especially because when we get to Ryan's vision, it's like the Earth is burning, and like all this stuff about the Earth being destroyed is like a big theme this season, and then obviously Gallifrey was destroyed, and so I'm just like, it's all right there. We could
And it
just
would have been
do
the setup
this,
for the next
and then be
episode
like,
for
oh, well,
the two-parter. Is that next?
Right.
Is it a two-parter? I don't know. Oh.
Not next. One more. And then the two-parter. But, like, just... If that's the case, then they really listened to our
Yeah,
episodes
it's a
from the
little
past
creepy,
and,
but
like, writing them. But they would... It's, again, it's this thing that we keep talking about, where it's like, if you're going to do it, you have to seed it properly. And, like, nothing's being seeded properly.
Still,
So, like,
after
everyone's
all
just, like,
this time.
guessing at things. But there's no, like, actual... There's just no, like, lead up. There's no, like, hinting at anything. Which I think they're trying to make it so it's just like, well, you couldn't have guessed because we didn't hint
That's
at anything.
not how storytelling
like,
works.
Right, like I need a little bit. I need something to grasp onto. I don't know. We'll see by the end, I guess.
So then
Anyway,
the god and goddess Rakaya's the one, and then what was the guy's name? Don't even remember. What?
Zillin.
Oh yeah. Zillin. Yeah.
Zillin,
That
like
guy. They're like, let's go to Earth and feast on their nightmares. And I wrote, why are aliens just so thirsty for Earth? Like, bruh, it sucks out here. Get a better planet.
7 billion people, you know, and he was just like, let's do this, and she was just like, let's take our time. Let's really savor the feast.
She was giving me,
I
okay,
was just
so
like,
when they finally got to Earth and we really got to see her, like, the actress acting and, like, moving around in the character, she was giving me big Daenerys Targaryen vibes. Hear me out. Partly because of the wig, I'm sure, like, that played into it, but literally the way she was, like, articulating her words and the way she moved her face, like, with this, like, slight smirk and stuff, I was like, yo, is this Daenerys Targaryen? Like, yeah.
she's about to draw
I was super into it, too. I'm like, ooh, because I went up for Dany for a while. Let's not talk about it. Anyways, so that was a thing. The wig wasn't great, like, when she wasn't, like, in the dark. Well, it was still dark when they got to Earth, but once, like, we got, like, a really good clear shot of her, I was like, I mean, I don't know what I was expecting, but it's fine.
It was probably...
Yeah, I mean, it might have been.
From one
I guess because I was just so, like, intrigued by her when I saw what the like, wig actually was. I was like, oh, right. Of course. Yep, we're on the BBC. Mm-hmm. Got it.
Yeah, BBC's budget. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the fam is experiencing their nightmares. Graham is afraid his cancer will come back, and he has all this
so much guilt and grief.
Guilt
about
no. Grace's death. And then they brought out Grace, and I was just like, "Hey, girl,
look,
hey!"
At this
but
point,
also,
I'm not
why?
even like, "Hey, girl, hey!" I'm like, "Can we just leave her? Let her be dead. Let her rest in peace." Like, what is? I just am over it. Like, I'm over the gimmick, and I just wonder, do they feel like they get a pat on the back, like it counts as her being a character? Because it doesn't. So,
right. And my thing.
Go ahead.
My thing was like, it's again. Something we've noticed, like, anytime they, like, fix something, it's still part of the problem that they've originated, is that, like, in this case, it's that Grace is Graham's grief to have, and not Ryan's
chilling.
All.
He's like,
once again, Ryan doesn't even mention it. It's not even a part of his thing. Like, he could be depressed because his nan died, and he's, like, been escaping by going to space and running away from his problems, and I get it. It's, like, very close to what the Yaz part of the story, but, like...
I mean, imagine a story arc narrative of Ryan, a black man, dealing with grief and mental health, but in a healthy way. Like, coming to deal with it healthily instead of, like, bottling up and being strong. Imagine that. But instead, Graham's only characterization is cancer, like, and grief. Bumbling. Like... I mean, I don't mean that, but, like, at this point, that's about it. He's a good old boy from, I don't even know where he's from, but, like, he's, like, definitely working class England. Like, I get it. And I was thinking about this before this episode aired. I was thinking about it over the week, and I was like, you know what? Like, I do feel bad how much I hate on Graham, because if the show hadn't done a lot of the things it did before this point, I think I would like him more. Because as far as our, like, shoehorned white characters go, he's a good character. Like, Nardole is not even... He's in, like, the two different leagues. Like, he's a good... Yeah. Right. He's a good character for what he is. And so I feel bad about how hard I am But then at the same time, as soon as I start to feel this way, they're like, here's the black woman we killed off. Remember that? You guys remember? I hope you didn't forget. We did that. I just wanted to make sure you didn't forgive us. Okay. And I'm just like, all right, well, never mind. Sorry, Graham. I tried. So he's afraid of cancer and Grace, and Grace is mean, and it's fine, I guess. Whatever. Like, as far as her reappearances, it wasn't the worst. But again, I'm just tired.
Small victories.
A lot of people like that episode. I am not one of them.
Yaz flashes back to a moment that we'll learn about later, but her fear is that no one cares about her, and that no one's coming for her, and just someone hug Yaz.
Girl, I was already, as soon as like they were talking about some sort of anniversary in the beginning of the episode, I was like, oh no, uh-oh. Like, a lot of my notes I say are caps lock about Satan Pit, but it's that and also, yes! Like, just shouting about Yaz, like, various points, which we'll get to.
Which we can talk about during our special Ryan segment. But he's afraid his friends will move on without him, and the doctor is afraid of, I guess, what the master said about the timeless child. We see, like, another vision. We saw this vision before. I want to say it was the one from last season, or, like, it's an expanded version of the one from last season. When we first hear about the timeless child, and then I think we saw it again, maybe in Spyfall, when the master's like, they tricked us, or whatever. And we hear the master's voice again. And sadly, Sasha's not here. There's no,
I was like,
not even a peek of his face. I was just like, but this is rude.
I'm so like,
yeah. For sure.
He's coming back, right? Yeah. Like, that's, like, he's for sure coming back, but, like, I need it to be like a true comeback, not like a 5 minutes and then he's gone situation.
Robin's off.
I need him back in my life, please.
Hopefully soon. Is the girl in this vision a little black girl?
I couldn't tell. Well, I also was not watching with the best Wi-Fi, so it was pretty grainy. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I had to rewatch some scenes because it's so bad. So I definitely, if there was anything to hint at it, I definitely couldn't see it. It just, like,
feels, and I probably saw this on Twitter somewhere because someone was just like, oh, is Ruth the timeless child? Like, was Ruth the little black girl? And I'm just like, guys, every black person's not the same black person. But I'm not strictly opposed. But also,
I'm not opposed.
Interesting. Right, like, I'm just curious, as long as she's still if that is the case, what that would mean in terms of, like, growing up. Like, the doctor changes into full-grown adults, and we've kind of always, I mean, I guess they could change it, or I guess the doctor could have, the doctor could have generated as the white boy that we know that he was. Like, we just know that the doctor was a white boy at some point. Just because of the show making him white boys. But I also feel like, so I don't know if it's like he regenerates into a black girl and then it grows up into Ruth. Like, it just, that's too much for me.
I also just don't think so, because the master figured out something about the timeless child, and the way he hinted at the timeless child to the doctor does not suggest that he knew that it was her. And I feel like he would have played that way differently.
I'm curious as to, like, so there's this separate, so it's three things there's these three things orbiting. It's like the timeless child, and then the master and the doctor, and something that was, I guess, erased from their minds. I don't know. It's hard to form any theories.
Yes, she doesn't like how that feels. Form any
theories because they aren't giving us anything, because they want to be, like, super clever, and I'm just like, at least, I mean, I had to stop with the theories during Moffat's era because they were so, it was always, the theories were always so much better than the plot.
Lord.
But, like, at least it was something fun to play with, like, ooh, maybe this thing is this, but there's nothing really to play with here.
I feel like this is I think this is a problem beyond just two. I just think that's where we are with TV right now. We've had so many shows upping the ante again and again of, like, shock and awe. And now there's all these issues that are coming up in television of like storytelling issues because people just want to shock people so badly that they're doing bad storytelling. And in this case, it's like, give them no hints at all, so it's shocking. But the shock is funner when you're misled with something. Right now, we don't have anything except for, okay, we get another doctor over here. She's black. I don't know. Jack was here for a second. Remember that? I don't know. Is Yaz gay? We don't know. That's another, don't worry about it. That's over there. The master, remember when we dressed him as a Nazi? That was wild. Anyway, so the timeless child.
Pieces,
like, that's what it feels like.
Part of the issue is that there's so many disparate pieces and they're waiting so late in the season to deploy them all. So it's just like, if you're going to make Yaz queer, which we're going to talk about in a minute, and how like she has to be, right? So like, if you're going to do that, and then you're going to have this master timeless child lone Cyberman story, which I think is all has to be the same plot with Jack, like that's a lot of details, and then they waited till episode 7 to give us all this actual characterization about the fam. It's just like they're pushing it all so late in the season. You gotta deploy some of that earlier.
Yeah, and I really, I don't like to read about the ratings issues with who, partly because I don't understand British TV rating systems, but also because, like, I don't think that should be the end-all, be-all. Right. But I do think, like, you could have told a more continuous story with more build-up rather than doing a fun story and then, like, this random episode. Like, it could have had a better through line. Like, I think back to, like, The Crack in Time or, like, Bad Wolf, like, say what you will about those, like, story arcs overall, but, like, it was seeded throughout the season. And, like, even in episodes that
built on top of each other rather than, like, just another separate piece of information.
Right. And instead, even in, like, quote-unquote throwaway or filler episodes, like, you would still see Bad Wolf spray painted somewhere, or you'd see the crack, like, the doctor would notice the crack at some point. Like, it was just woven through, and that's not happening really here.
Like they think they're doing it, but it's, like I said, like, separate pieces as opposed to, like, something building. So it's just like, okay, so it's just like, oh, that's another piece of the puzzle, but they're not connecting the puzzle at all. They're just going to do it last minute at the end. In the 2-part finale.
It really feels like it's just going to be like a one-pot stew. They're throwing in all the stuff.
And they're just like, look at all the ingredients we have. And I'm like, I don't know if that's going to make a good meal. Like, that looks great.
I don't.
And that smells real good. But will they go together? That is my question.
Right.
Enough analogies.
We don't know. And it could end up being like a spectacular, like, Spyfall was great. And it could end on a similar note of Spyfall. And if it does, then shoot, far be it from me. Like, I will say when I'm wrong.
Happy about it.
I will be happy to be wrong.
But alas, we still have 3 episodes to find out.
Right.
So the doctor escapes her little, but also how? Like, the doctor escapes her little mental
She does, like, not to sound like a bro here, but she's been a bit OP this season. Like, the doctor always is. Like, they're the doctor. Like, they can do, they're a Time Lord. Like, what can't they do? But, like, she literally is, like, her hands are clasped above her, and, like, her sonic's in her pocket, and somehow
I think it magnetized. Like, it must have been a magnet. It had to have been,
because, like, she shimmies and, like, it flies up into her hand. But she doesn't drop it or struggle.
The doctor has some secret metal magnets in her hands or something, because that...
Or phenomenal hand-eye coordination.
There's no way you could lift it out of the pocket, though. That's the issue.
Well, I thought she, like, bumped her hip onto something, and then it, like...
But it wouldn't go
popped
up that far.
That's what I'm saying.
That's not hand-eye coordination. That's magic.
Well, like, she had to catch it still. Even if I managed to get it up in the air, like, was I going to catch it with my hands clasped above my head? No.
About the clasping of the hands. I'm worried how it got up that far.
All the pieces make it not make sense.
So, whatever. Magic. So, it's one of those things
where
OP,
I, like, noticed
it was like, whatever. It's a thing the show is... in some way or form, it's just like,
I'm fine with that. I just wanted to note, because I was like, what?
It had to be noted. She goes after Baldy and the Queen of the Night, which I'm really proud of.
Why? I'm not coming back on the show.
Half of this is your fault. Anyway,
okay.
She goes after Baldy and Queen of the Night, and they, after their plan to like feast on Earth and nightmares for the rest of eternity, but they get called to see, this is where it really lost me, and I was just like, I guess. So they like, the Doctor and the fam and friends go to Syria because they realized that Tahira's nightmare was like tied to her somehow, and they were created.
It was hers to control,
and it was tied to her by Baldy and Queen of the Night. And so like they, I guess because they have this creature and they think that they can control it, they're like, oh right, we have this thing, let's go where it is. And so they go to Syria in 1380 because they can also travel through time.
Look, they're gods. I think we're meant not to question
like
it.
Immortal beings, so they can go literally wherever they want. And they chose 2020 Sheffield and then 1380 Syria.
Not only do they love like our aliens thirsty for Earth, they're real thirsty for England.
One of the tiniest country islands.
England and Wales.
That's it.
They love
it. And so they go back, and then Tahira has conquered her fear, which is this ugly beast.
Why again? And I'm still sitting here like, I don't care that she's scared of it. I don't care that she's conquered the fear.
Right,
why are we
like,
here?
I didn't know what she was afraid of to create this creature. Like she mentions that, like, again, so much backstory for these one-off characters. It's just like her parents died when she was 7, and she like escaped. And so I understand her having fear, but they never really explain why it like manifested into this big creature, or like why it looks like that. But
maybe that's just what fear looks like. That's the Dementors of the Who universe.
Yeah, I guess so. And so she's like conquered it, but then somehow it attacks the gods, and then poof, they go back. They get trapped in the orb together with the monster.
So easy
with the monster. I
wrote that it was a ridiculously simple solution for dealing with actual gods. Like, going back to the Satan pit, because that's my jam. First of all, David monologued for a good while, like, after, like, you know, grappling with some, like, dark philosophical things. And, like, he's thinking he's about to die. And that's what's going to happen. He's going to die down here with this immortal being that's chained here and can't do anything about it. He figures it out because he's clever. But like, it's, you really don't, when you're watching that episode, you're like, you know he's going to get out of it because he's the Doctor, but you don't know how. You're like, well, this seems impossible. Like, this seems hopeless. Like, I hope they find, like, maybe somebody finds the TARDIS, and like, you don't know. But here, it's just like, no, we'll put him back in the ball. Slip, bam, boom, we're done. Like, it was so easy.
Yeah, like, the Doctor also monologues this episode about how humans are great and they conquer their fears. But it didn't really tie.
Great.
Yeah, it didn't
of
really,
a monologue.
It didn't really tie into how they defeat the monster either. Because it's just like, oh, she conquers her fear, but there are six of them. They couldn't all have, like, I feel like if they had all conquered this physical fear that they'd had, it would have made sense for, like, all six of their, or however many there are, all of their fears to pounce on the people who created them for the humans, and then that would have done it. But one monster, that, for two immortal gods from another dimension?
A rewrite right now that would have made that, albeit simple solution, better. Get rid of Aleppo Girl. I'm so sorry. You didn't make the cut. You're left on the editing room floor. Instead, you have Tebow.
Yes.
He's manifested these demon, I don't know, monsters. Sure. And, you know, he's really grappling with it because he's really going through some stuff. And you see Ryan really pulling through for him, and they're having these deep conversations like, man, you got to do it, whatever. It takes up more time in the episode. And finally, Tebow, at the last minute, when you think he's just lost all hope, he's given in to the hopelessness that's inside of him. He rallies, and he is able to command these monsters, and then they attack and do whatever, and it's still the same simple solution, but at least it has emotional resonance. We don't get either.
because I did not know anything. Like, I just didn't care about Aleppo Girl because there's so many other characters. I was just like, what's going
So
on
many
with
other
Timo?
characters.
What's going on with Yaz and her sister? Her sister disappears out the rest of the episode, except to
I was
like
looking
haunt
at
her.
the little bar, like, to see how much time was left. I was like, we still have not gone back to Yaz's nightmare. I swear to, I was so upset. Like, I was already pre-upset. I was pretty upset, when you know, like, you've lost faith in a creator and you're like still here because you've been here, but you're already mad.
So many times, y'all. So many times. So like, the gods go home and they get trapped in between their two little planets that are not named. We don't know how really they got there. I think they have the ugly beastie's breath in their face the whole time.
For always and eternity.
Yeah, and they're immortal, so it's just like forever. And like, I guess neither of them could get out. I assume the doctor made some.
I know she like broke the quantum lock or whatever. Did she fix that?
She fixed it. That's the
Unclear.
Like, that's one of those things where I'm just like, I guess she must have fixed it because I said so.
Right.
So the fam take their friends home. Aleppo Girl goes back to this like hospital that she was at, I guess. Yaz like flashes back to she was trying to run away, and like they're kind of shady's the wrong word. I don't know. My brain won't work. But they don't really alert.
They're alluding.
They're alluding to some deeper, possibly self-harm type stuff, which I guess we can not. I don't know. I don't want to. Trigger warning if we're going to talk about it. But yeah, it is part of the thing. Warning. But I mean, it's not really named or outright said. So I guess you're left to presume what you'd like about where Yaz was going. But she's having a bad time. She's still in high school, I assume, because it was like 3 years ago, and I think she's like 19 or 20 now. And she's like being bullied at school, and her parents aren't really getting it or paying attention. Her grades aren't, she's not doing well in school. Like, her grades are bad. People are bullying her. And she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And her sister is the one who calls the police. I guess she just, like, knew where she was.
Right. Which was in the middle of, I was trying to look it up, but, like, it looks like, again, like, England's only so big. I mean, not even just England, the UK, but it looks, I don't know which episode, but that Sherlock episode where he's like recreating the scene with the boomerang. Well, that's what it ends up. Spoiler alert, it ends up being a boomerang. In this field near this lake. It looks the exact same. Probably. So I'm like, that's what I was thinking of the whole time. But then after thinking of that, I'm like, well, but how did her sister know she was in the middle of nowhere?
Right. Like she was going off and didn't turn off Find Her Friends or something.
Yeah, like, I'm not sure. I have mixed feelings, and like, I think if you really liked this and you really appreciated, and I do appreciate some sort of character growth at this point, and this is what I was talking about, like, am I just happy to have something because the bar is so low? Yeah. Like, I appreciate what they were doing, and I appreciate where hopefully this is getting Yaz's story, but that's the thing. It's still just a lot of hopes. I kept typing in my notes because I'm, typing as I'm watching because I knew I was going to be on this podcast, and I just keep say a name, put a name to it, like, say the thing, like, if we're gonna do depression, like, let's do it. If we're gonna say she's bullied for being queer in some way, whether she's lesbian, bisexual, pansexual, whatever it is, like, please just say it at this point. Like, I just was begging them in my head, right. Like, just say the thing.
Like, obviously depression can affect anyone, and right. It can come without warning and without actual cause, but I feel like they were talking around an actual cause and never actually named, like you said, named it. So it's just like, it could have been that she was just depressed and they didn't have to, right. They could have cut out she's being bullied at school and just been like, her grades are tanking and her parents don't get it. But the fact that she's bullied gives it a reason. And obviously she's like, a person of color. So it's like, that could be the reason, but then name that. But now there's like, things that were floating in the air for why she could be feeling this way, and they were very tangible, but we don't know what they are. You have to guess at what they are.
And like, if divorced from the context of like Yaz's story thus far, it's like, okay, this is potentially a good setup for more. Mm-hmm. Like, would love to see where this story goes. But when you actually look at it, and it's almost 2 seasons worth of hinting, maybe, we don't know, like, just like, I feel personally kind of offended, and like, we don't know. They could still at the last hour like come in. I mean, it's the 11th hour they could come in and do the thing, and
but it would still be
part of me is like, how can they not? Because this is just so identical to so many people's experience growing up, queer, gay, bisexual, trans, like across the LGBTQ spectrum, that like you couldn't have written this and nobody edited it out if that's not where you were going. Like, that's how I like logically feel. But I've also been burned so many times at this point by fandoms doing harmful mess.
Yeah, the queer baiting.
That I'm just tired. Like, in this case, it's queer baiting, but in general, just like at the course of my fandoms, which, you know, I'm sure a lot of people relate, it's just like, and it's who included with other things they've done, it's just like, it's hard to have trust at this point. And even if they do it at this point, is it enough? Like, after almost 2 seasons of hinting, I don't know. And I also kind of worried maybe this is it, because, you know, they suggest that, you know, something's going to be revealed about Yaz's character. Is the depression the thing? Are we not coming back to it? I don't know.
There's not a lot of time, because I know that next week is like a romp in the past. And with the way that they're going, I feel like we're not going to get, like, just like you said, I don't trust that we're going to get any characterization because they gave us so much this week. And then the finale is going to happen, and so many things have to happen in the finale. I know it's 2 parts, but there's still only so much you can fit in there. And they didn't fit a lot of character stuff. Like, they could have seeded some of this Yaz stuff in the first episode. Back. They could have been like, Yaz needs to get back by a certain day.
Remember when she was in the, like, hair follicles? When she came back super emotional to Ryan, she could have been like, I've only felt hopeless like that once before. And
that's all you need.
That would have been enough.
That's all you need. That's all you need. But also, they could have been like, okay, doctor, we're going on this venture with you. I have to be back in 3 weeks. Like, they literally could have just seeded that part. Like, she needs to be back. And then finally, this episode, they're like, okay, now I'm finally back. Oh, we're late, blah, blah, blah. And this is why. And then this is why. Right. But, like, they're seeding all this stuff, but, like, none of it connects to each other. And then certain things they're not seeding at all. And you're just like, why? Because I think that, like, Yaz, as a person of color, by itself would be a reason for her to be going through all of this stuff. Right. And they didn't even mention that part. And it's just like, go somewhere. It all one way or the other.
Like, say something. Because it's queer baiting because you're saying nothing. You could have squashed this before. You could have put her with Ryan. You could have pulled a penny out of nowhere, but a man, I guess. A man penny. And, like, gave her that. You could have pulled an oil slick dude and she could have gone off clubbing into the night. I don't know. But you could have squashed it. But you haven't. Why?
Right. And so they're just going to do it at the end. And then, I don't know. It's hard to tell.
And I've seen some people, and, like, I, like, don't want to invalidate, like, especially if you're coming from that marginalization and you're appreciating what you're getting. Like, I can't fault you that. Like,
right. We've had this,
you know,
with, like,
we don't always get a choice between good representation and bad. We just get to be happy with representation we have, and I get that. So that's valid, and that I partly feel that way. I partly feel like, well, but if they do it, at least they did this much. But again, it comes back to, am I just settling because of what they've given me?
So then Graham. Oh wait, no. Yaz flashes back to this dark day that she's had, and the police officer comes and I guess cheers her up. She's just like, if in 3 years, like, you'll get through this. If in 3 years, you have and you've proven me right, wrong, I've already forgotten. But they make a bet. Basically make a bet that in 3 years you owe me 50 quid. Which was cute. And
She's like,
that.
you need a new job. That's not a lot of money.
Right. And I guess it's sort of like, this is why Yaz decides to become a police officer.
Right.
Which is nice backstory to have. And then we get to see...
Although they didn't say it, you just are meant to infer it, which
I guess
would be fine if they were saying other things.
Yes, because I do feel like it is a moment where they didn't need to say it, but they did need to say other stuff. And they said nothing.
Right.
But then she goes to meet this police officer 3 years later.
Flashback forward.
Flashback forward to the present. And she gives her the 50 quid. And guys, Yaz, Mandup's face when she sees this lady, she's so happy.
Okay.
She was so happy, and I was just like, yay! And I was just like, some of this was a bit clunky, but yay! Yaz is happy!
It was a bit clunky, but, like, it was a wholesome scene. Like, I literally, like, hand to chest was like, because it was just so, firstly, Mandup, like, just the acting, but also the
hair acting also. I just have to shout out whoever did her hair like real straight and long for her being like young and like want to be cool, and then she's like curly again. I was just like, I see you.
Hair journey. We all went on
it. Which also could have been never mind. Just like the hair journey, she's been teased because she's brown and she got curly hair, and so she's been straightening. Anyway, some of y'all know. Some of y'all know.
Y'all know what it is. Anyways, so they do that. I was hoping, again, like this whole time I said, I was like, please just say the thing. I'm desperate for them to say the thing, because I think for me, maybe this was like the last moment where they could have done it, and I would have been like, okay, well, it was worth it. Maybe that's why I'm hanging on to it. I haven't really analyzed it, but I really was like desperate for them to do the thing. And the police, I guess she's still a police officer, I don't know, the police officer that helped her opens the door, and I wanted so badly for her to invite her in and be like, and this is my wife, so and so. That would have been enough. It would have been what it needed. That didn't happen. Because
it's just like, I've been where you've been before, and like she had this like interpersonal connection, and like we didn't have to have Yaz be like, I'm happy now because I'm out, because I guess partially is that she's not, but maybe she wasn't out to herself or whatever. Like, there are so many ways you could play it. And then if you didn't want to have her say it, you could have the police officer who's had so much in common with her have this moment.
Right. And it would have been, for me, enough to trust that that is where they're going, first of all. And secondly, it would have been, I think, at that point, confirmation. But it was still a cute scene. Like, that aside, it was super cute. And while the rest of it was clunky, I was still happy with that. Because it also, that narrative aside, when you're talking about depression, I think ending on a message of hope and, like, without saying the words, it gets better, showing that it got better for Yaz, I think is so powerful. And I really, as someone who's dealt with depression before, like, I just, like, felt that in my soul. Because, like, when I think of how who I was in the past, like, it's hard to hear the words like it gets better, but if you can see somebody that has gone through whatever it was, it's really powerful. And I can imagine people watching that who are struggling on their own, like that being a powerful message for them. Yeah.
And I mean, we can talk about Ryan's portion of this, but Ryan like encourages Tipo to go to therapy, and that was really great to see. It's not explicitly, he's sitting there, he's on a couch, but then he's like kind of in a living room.
It was, I put it down to BBC sets.
Yeah, I was just like, I guess this is just like an informal
It looks
session.
Like group therapy, but like or like maybe
casual
group therapy,
which
something.
Is like something,
but
anything. I'm glad he's getting the help that he needs.
Right.
And I'm glad that they didn't make it that the big bad, like, nightmares were the cause. Like, he'd been feeling this way before the nightmare showed up, and then the nightmare showed up, and it was like, oh crap, this is worse. And then the nightmares went away, and his
so it wasn't
like
defeating the alien fixed it.
So I appreciated that too. And then this part was so weird. Graham tells the doctor about his fears, I guess because he has no one else he wants to tell them to, but like Ryan is right there. And like, if you don't want to tell Ryan, maybe they could have had it with I guess they just needed Jodie to be in the scene again.
Contractually she had one more scene to be written into.
And so I'm just like, okay. But like Graham's like, yeah, I fear that I might get cancer again, and the doctor's just like, ooh.
Like
I'm socially
just human
awkward.
teens, am I right?
What? after she get this whole episode is just like humans are great and their ability to get through things. Like you're able to speechify to like some gods, some like evil gods, and you can't tell Graham like yikes. Like she didn't even get to the point of yikes.
Yeah, no, she just was like, oh, so did you want me to like comfort you or something?
Right.
Or
like, that was weird.
Were you just saying?
I would feel like that was weird considering the rest of the episode where she's just like, I can help anybody. And she does, like, as the doctor does. Not even like, I'll take you to this place or to distract you, to cheer you up. Just like, I can't do this.
Like, as someone who can be pretty, like, emotionally dry, we'll say, even for me, I was like, but you would try.
Right.
Like,
you have definitely tried.
Like, your friends know, especially like 13 in the fam. Like when you are emotionally awkward or like don't do emotions well, your friends know.
If he thought that she couldn't deliver in that moment, that's why he went to her. So Ryan and Yaz also have a conversation, and Ryan's like, "Well, is this our life now?" And Yaz is like, "I guess." Like Yaz is still in it.
Yaz is like, "Yep."
Yaz is still in it, and Ryan is sort of like, And I don't know, there's just been like rumors flying around, but like I can't tell if they're from the right sources because everybody's like, everybody's leaving Doctor Who because it sucks. But Tosin Cole did get a show, although I don't know that they would have known that he got this show when they filmed this
at
episode.
The time they were writing it. Right.
So it's just like I can't tell if they are trying to seed, because again, we're getting nothing. We got all these seeds and no water.
None.
No water. So I don't know if they're trying to see, because the two of them, those were two very distinct, like, our time might be up soon moments for me.
As much as I do love Ryan, I think I'd be okay with it, like if him and Graham leave, because I just miss.
Yep.
Because when I was thinking of maybe we were talking about it on the episode of TARDIS I was on, or maybe we were talking about it afterwards, like, I don't think that necessarily there's that many more extra characters than there used to be in New Who, but we didn't used to have such a crowded TARDIS on top of it. So I sort of welcome the idea of phasing those two out and keeping Yaz and Jodie.
Yes.
Or I love Yaz so much, or phasing Yaz and Graham out and keeping Ryan, like one of the two, just so that like
for justice they have to keep Yaz.
Well, for justice they have to keep Yaz, but like even if, like, that's too specific of an ask because they don't seem to like Yaz very much or something.
That's dumb.
Then keep Ryan. I don't, like, either way. Also, we haven't really had a male companion in a while. I mean, and even then, it was in support of a female companion. So, like, I wouldn't mind. Point is, just less people on the TARDIS would not be a bad thing.
I agree. I think that if they do... I personally am just like, no, you could phase Ryan and Graham out. Ryan, love you, would miss you. But if it was just Yaz and Jodie, and they sometimes picked up strays, but not every week, not weekly. Like, if they drop two and then pick up two, I just... Why? When you could have just kept the same two.
Yeah, right. But Graham and Ryan were all sad, and they're like, here's our two new members of the fam.
So I would be so mad.
I'd be like, for why? We could have had Ryan.
Right, like don't drop Ryan and then give me two more people. That is not what I'm saying. Anyway, Ryan rants. Speaking of, about Chips though.
About Chips though. It was so cute.
Why is he like this? Again, it was so good. Like we've been saying, it was so good to see like characterization, and he has black friends, and he plays video games, and he's a FIFA legend. He's so great.
I enjoyed seeing him
be a person.
And I did. Be a person. I mean, I did have I had the thought, I'm like, we don't know. Who is this friend? I mean, and then it turned out, like, the storyline, I liked it. But, like, at first I was like, he couldn't go back to his dad or something? Right. Like, why do we have another new character? But it turned out all right.
I think he might have been in Spyfall. Like, they were playing basketball together. So, like, that, they seeded that enough, but not a lot. Like, he I think
Again,
it's one of
he
those
needs no
things.
water.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where they could have had a like maybe I don't know what order they wrote the episodes in, so maybe they weren't thinking about this being a through line, but like him checking his cell phone on another, on one of their adventures and being like, "Oh, dang." And then that's it. Like literally that's it. Like, "Oh, dang, he been getting these texts and he been not seeing them." Or like obviously he can't respond to them because he's in deep space. But like just acknowledging that like people from his home life are trying to contact him and he's just like, "I'll get to it later, I'll get to it later," which would take 2 seconds. So I guess they're seeing it, the idea that like Ryan is missing his friends and is worried that he's like losing moments with them. Especially considering that this friend reveals like something's really wrong and like he's not as clean as he used to be and he's been going through all this stuff. And I like that they have this like care, but like with banter, where he was just like, "Look at me, I'm not laughing."
I thought it was so sweet. Like,
but like they still had a banter. Like it got serious, but wasn't 100%
out of character.
serious in a way that you would be with your friend, because you're still trying to keep it light, because you're like, they're clearly scared about something and worried about this thing and going through something, but you don't want it to be like, "I'm going to change and like make it really serious," because that's not going to necessarily help.
It was very realistic, at least to me in my friendships. Like that's like, you can be like, "Hey, I'm going through a hard time," and then you like laugh a little. Like it's you're still friends in how you are, and like and that's did helpful. Like that a lot. I thought it was also really sweet that he was going to reassure his friend and he was able to calm his friend down. You love Ryan. You will be missed on the TARDIS.
Dang. Already. And then like
just prepping the audience.
Later when we see Ryan's like nightmare, it's like the whole planet is burning and Tebow has like grown old, and so he's just like, again, the fear that his friends are moving on but that they will need him, I guess. And that he won't be there.
What about him as a person? Like, they didn't do the characterization work, but I can infer that says a lot about his character.
Right. Which I think, again, it's one of those things where it would be fine if there weren't so many other pieces that were lacking.
Left unsaid. Right.
Because I do strongly believe in not treating your audience like they're stupid. And
absolutely.
And like hand holding us through every single moment. But there are certain moments where I just needed like a pinky finger. Just like a little bit.
Like when you're not holding my hand at all, it's like, well, then why'd you even put this other thing in here? Like, why you tell me something? Yeah. But it was, yes, that was a moment, and seeing his fear, I was kind of surprised that was his fear. Oh no, Shady Delia almost came out.
Say it.
I was like, considering we spent a good portion of last season talking about his struggles with dyspraxia, but all right.
Quotes from the TARDIS.
Yes, quotes from the TARDIS. This has been a journey.
I know. Delia, you make these really long, okay?
I'm so sorry. I just have a lot of feelings this season.
People are really annoying and they hate being told that. Sonia ain't never lied. Homegirl got fired from her third customer service job.
That's impossible. No one can travel among the stars. Unless you're the Doctor. She's basically the definition of impossible. Which, who said it? Who said it, Connie?
It was yes!
Just give me what I want.
Has been teased to tears.
Teased to tears. Wow, what bars. Yes, teased to tears.
Yes. I watched you blunder into this. Blundering, top of my CV, along with plays well with others and excellent tap dancer in a crisis. I would like to see it.
I was like,
thought she was going to do it.
Come on, let's go.
I thought she was going to do it too. At least later when she was just like, haha, I got y'all, and then just do a little jig.
As we all know, the Doctor does dance. Anyway, so next quote. I've got plans crashing through my brain all the time. You want a plan? Come to me. It's identifying which plan is going to work. That's the tricky bit.
Which is great, because I love when they refer to the Doctor's plans, because they're half-formed, they're working on it while they're talking. It's always a good line. Yeah. Thanks for lending a helping hand. Really? I couldn't resist. You could have 13. You could
no.
have.
13 is me. If the pun is there, I'm going to take it.
Anyway, check us out at blackgirlscreate.org. You can follow us on Twitter at WeBlackandNerds. Follow me at Constar24. And follow Delia at Delia Dumbledore. Use the hashtag TARDIS to follow along and to tweet about your thoughts about this episode and any of the others. And join our Slack where we have conversations dedicated to Doctor Who in our Who Watch channel.
Rate and review us on iTunes where podcasts are found. Also, you can become a Patronus. Head over to patreon.com/blackgirlscreate to support what we do. Patronuses who donate $25 per month get TARDIS bonus episodes, recapping episodes of Classic Who. If you want Robin and Connie's thoughts on 50s white nonsense, level up.
We might get you in there. You don't know. The people might request Delia specifically.
They won't. I come in here with some negative mess every episode so far. I'm like, y'all.
Who, so it's just gonna be like that every time. Anyway, it's fine.
That's true. There is some fun to be had in Classic
And we
Who,
have other perks too, so that's not the only one. It's just like, the TARDIS specific
level
bonus.
all the way up if you become a $50 patron.
Yeah.
Connie or I will write you into a fic. I think it's a flash fic. I don't even know. Nobody's hit it yet, but if you want it, we'll write you into a fic.
In the universe, in the Harry Potter or Doctor Who universe of your choice. And
I'll even throw an Avatar: The Last Airbender. Look, listen. I'm already doing. Look, anyway. Let's not.
TARDIS is a part of Hard Knock Media. We've joined the Nerds of Color podcast network, including the podcast Hard Knock Life, Southern Fried Asian, DC TV Classics, Ask Spy Girls, Basic Geek Girls, We're Not All Ninjas, and That Moment. You can check out all these podcasts at hardknockmedia.noc.com.
Well,
thank you.
Thanks for listening. They'll be back next week for Doctor Who episode Season 12, Episode 8, The Haunting of Villa Diodati? Who knows? We'll find out. Only one episode left until the 2-part finale.
Next week we're meeting Mary Shelley.
Good night, everybody.
The black girls have the box.